Good morning. Welcome to Energy Works. Today we're talking about undoing it. What decision have you made? What things have transpired that you wished you could undo, or thoughts or decisions that you made that could be changed for your good? What would you be prepared to undo? This is what we're going to talk about today, because often we've made decisions in the past that about situations that are not correct, and we need to undo our thinking on it, and we need to try and rethink it. Take back what we thought, make a different choice, do it in another way, think about it differently. So sometimes, as a funny example, when I was young, I wasn't going to marry Maori, and I wasn't going to have lots of children, which of course I did both. So, these things we might decide are not really the proper decision to make, but could be better. So what decisions have you made that you think you need to undo now? What is it that you can do that would be in your best interest to think a bit differently about? Okay. All right. So what about if we all thought a little bit differently and, decided each day that we would check in with what the Saviour, God, universe, however you like to do it, would like you to do? What about if you were to think about that every day and how you would best live your life? All right, so what's coming up under our seventh chakra? So is our central nervous system, the inability to see we're all family. And I think that's really important while we're undergoing this coronavirus time. I think we tend to think of separation and worrying about people giving us diseases. But if we were to think about everyone being part of the family, and if someone in your family was sick, you'd want to help them and, be kind towards them and help them to feel more like they are going to be supported and cared for and loved. All right, so seeing the world as against you or for you. And we're going to use the oil spikenard. So spikenard's a bit about gratitude. This is from the Essential Emotions book. It says, gratitude is an expression of complete acceptance and abundance. A grateful person is content with what they have. Spikenard teaches individuals to be grateful for their challenges as well as their blessings. It also assists individuals in transcending their sorrows through being grateful for their present life circumstances. Through complete surrender and acceptance, the soul may be brought into peace and harmony. And so what's coming up here too is expecting bad luck. So let's check into the other side of it. Let's imagine ourselves already being peaceful and doing the things that it takes for us to be peaceful. All right, something in our timeline from our birth. So our own feelings. All right, so not feeling approval. Now, apparently when I was born, I was quite late. I think I was due on my mum's birthday, and I was born almost 2 weeks later. I was quite wrinkly, so, this feeling of not being acceptable can come up as well. So let's say I approve of myself. Others approve of me. I'm okay without approval. And interestingly enough, that one's strong. I approve of myself is not strong, and neither is others approve of me. All right, so now something in our neck, C5, so that's the sugar circuit. When we eat sugar, that one goes awry. All right, what's coming up under C5 is feeling limited. So how are you feeling limited? Are you limiting yourself, or are you having limited thoughts? What is it that is preventing you from feeling that you're expansive, that you have the opportunity to influence the world for good? What decision have you made in the past that you want to now undo? Okay. So let's go into some lime oil. Lime is about zest for life. So where could you do with a little bit more zest? All right, lime cleanses the heart, especially where there's been an avoidance. Yeah, so it says especially where there's been an accumulation of emotional toxins due to avoidance or repression. So this oil revitalizes the heart space, giving room for light and joy. It clears discouragement and thoughts and feelings related to a loss of will to live. Lime shines a light on the inner motives hidden in the heart and encourages emotional honesty. And sometimes we need this emotional honesty with ourselves. What are we not being honest about with ourselves? So this is essential oil affirmations. I am elevated above the mire of my past discouragement and grief. So I guess there's a couple of things that come to mind here. Often when things happen in our lives, we make conclusions, good and bad. And sometimes those conclusions were wrong. So another example that I could give you would be when I was a kid, I had eczema. And I can remember being in kindergarten and having to I couldn't sit on the mats because the mats were too itchy for me. They were probably wool mats. And I had to go and sit on the chairs and remember feeling very out of it and not part of the group because I had to go and sit up on the chairs by myself. And so it's like I felt like I was a disease or unacceptable in some way. So it's like that's a conclusion that I made when I was 5. And so it's like it's taken a lifetime to understand that that's the conclusion that I made. And now I have to try and undo that conclusion and feel that I am a worthy person to be out in public and not like a disease, which of course has been challenged at this time when you go shopping and you have to not go near people. That challenges that belief for me. So it's like choosing to feel differently. And sometimes that's really easy for us. Sometimes it's a bit hard. All right, so something in our timeline. Age 7, 12, 18, 22, 27, 33, 39, 45. All right, Tabitha's mentioned my parents were in the Navy. I stopped making friends by grade 1 as I knew we would move schools and towns again. Yeah, that's sad, isn't it, that you felt you couldn't make friends. And, in hindsight, we could say, well, they could be all become your best pen friends, and you could, have amassed a large group of friends. But I think when you're a kid, you can't see that far ahead and understand that we can change our thinking or it could be different. So Catherine said, I concluded in my marriage I was not lovable. And that wasn't the truth at all, was it? It's just what the conclusion we draw when there are problems. We assume that it's us. And that's particularly more prevalent in women than men, but some men feel the same. All right, so Lila feeling not wanted. Yeah, and each of us have these experiences as a child where we feel we're not acceptable. Right, so rosemary oil comes up now. So rosemary is the oil of knowledge and transition. So rosemary assists in the development of true knowledge and true intellect. It teaches that one can be instructed from a far greater space of understanding than the human mind. And I think that's why it's really important in the morning to kind of, say a prayer, kind of dedicate your day and ask, okay, what do you want me to do today? Where would you have me help? And I think if we can follow that, we can have a better understanding than our current mortal confined understanding. All right, it invites individuals to trust in a higher, more intelligent power than themselves. It supports them in feeling confident and assured during times of great change in understanding or perspective. Rosemary roots them in the true knowledge that surpasses all understanding. And I think that's what's really important, that we see the bigger picture, that it's not just us here and now. The decisions we make, the kindness we show, choosing to see ourselves differently, choosing to see others differently, can really expand our feeling of love and acceptance. You could use in conjunction with this Zendocrine, because Zendocrine is the restart blend, and sometimes our thinking needs a restart. So Zendocrine reawakens vital life energy. It also assists an individual in discovering new energy and vitality by encouraging the release of physical and emotional toxins. And what I was talking about for 5, I obviously have physical toxins to have eczema, and emotional toxins came, I think, from feeling like I was a disease. So having to shed that thinking that we had of being unlovable or a disease or not wanted or not needed, discarding those beliefs and deciding, what, I'm a good person, I'm lovable, and, changing it up. This blend aids in shedding apathy in any destructive habit, helping a person find enthusiasm for life. As individuals let go of limiting beliefs, behaviours and lifestyles, they have greater room to receive. As a result, they are able to see life from a fresh perspective and embrace new experiences. All right, so this Zendocrine you would also use to help you be more open to new experiences. So let's have a look here. I release myself from the trap of my past self-sabotaging behaviours and addictions. I forgive myself for these. It's from Kim's book, Essential Oil Affirmations. She also has great affirmations. I willingly let go of the non-essentials or anything that sabotages my higher purpose. I embrace change with both hands and look upon it as a friend. And sometimes we're a bit scared to make new friends, aren't we? We're frightened that people will judge us, but I think often other people couldn't judge us possibly any more than we judge ourselves. I think we're the worst critics of ourselves ever. It's interesting to try and let go of that judgment of ourselves because it's a habit, and we're often taught as children to be critical, or it was a way, I think, particularly people that have been through war, they feel like they want to harden their children to survive, and so they use strictness or toughness to try and help their children get through difficult times. And sometimes that works for children and sometimes it does not, and it teaches them to be hard to themselves. And so it's like sometimes you do need to be hard on yourself. When you're a bit tired and you still got to get up and go to work, we need that hardness. But then there are times where we need to show ourselves love and look at it a bit differently. So personally, this one, big struggle for me. So some days I do good, some days not so good. So Catherine said, I had a dream last night where I was told when we have a blocked emotion, we are living in a negative space that defines our behaviour and conclusions we made about ourselves. Yes, so true. Yes. And the blocked emotions affect our ability to interact with life presently. So all those things are helpful to change that perspective we have ourselves, to undo how we saw ourselves, because the way we're seeing ourselves is not correct, and we need to change how we do see ourselves. And sometimes we need to look at ourselves how other people might see us. Often we see the worst in ourselves. We notice our faults, we notice the defects, we notice the parts of our personality or our body that we're unhappy with. So I remember talking to a client that, was told that she was always drama. And we said, well, how about we say not drama, how about we say colourful? How can you reword what you say about yourself? We could say stubborn, or we could say determined. We could say wishy-washy, or maybe open to new pathways. All right, so let's say I am able to look through my spiritual eyes. And this has got a generational component. Dad's side, dad's dad, and the women. All right, so I'm asking you, are there blocked emotions that we need to release? And yes, they are. All right, worried or bothered by lack of communication with others. And I guess to have friends, we have to be a friend. When you make that connection in the morning, that divine connection, and ask who they would have us help, we then can reach out and begin communication, start friendships, talk to people that we may not normally have considered people that would be our friends. All right, so other blocked emotions. Sometimes we're lacking the will to live. And I know I sometimes joke, which I shouldn't. In times it's like, shoot me now. And so I think I don't really want to be shot now. I'm quite happy to live. But there are times where life seems very frustrating or hard to me. And so it's like, what's the lesson that I need to learn now? What is it that I'm not learning that I need to learn and understand? All right, negative thoughts against ourselves. These are all stuck feelings. I remember a client told me about, I think they went to a seminar, a self-help seminar, and they were told to put an elastic band around their wrists, and every time they had a negative thought, they had to ping themselves with the elastic band. But I think we could choose something a little bit more positive. And there was also a talk I heard one time, it was a Time Out for Women, and the lady was talking about how she had a little counter. And she started counting all her negative thoughts, and then she just ended up feeling so depressed and terrible. So she decided she would change it up and count her positive thoughts. And the more she counted her positive thoughts, the happier she felt. So it's like we better start choosing the happy thoughts and the good things rather than the negative things. So Tabitha's mentioned I'm redefining boundaries in friendships as sometimes I give too much and attract the wrong people. So distance myself from the good people. Yeah. And I guess not that we want to discard people, but some people uplift us and help us to be better people. Some people require us to give a lot of attention and love. And so sometimes we need to make a charity day and decide that we will deal with those people on a charity day, very limited time, and just make an appointment. And so we make more room for the people that uplift us and bring us joy. So what's something that you have always wanted to do but not let yourself do? I bought myself a flute, but I still haven't had one lesson yet. So I guess for me, I have to commit to having some flute lessons. What is it that you need to, what is it that you would like to have a go at? What do you think would make a difference in your life? How would you like to try things differently? What were the things that you wanted to do when you were a kid that you were unable to do? Tabitha's mentioned she's like that charity day. Yeah, just pick one day that you do charity and put the people that are hard work in that day. All right, a little bit more generational stuff here on Dad's side, Dad's mum's side, and the women. And let's use a questionation and say, why do I so easily find uplifting and supportive friends? Again, there's another generational component. Dad's side, Dad's dad, and both men and women. All right. Oh, I like this. Someone's mentioned she'd like to do dancing. That's so good. And you should do it. What sort of dancing would you like? I really think it's important. Those things that you're called to do, they're important to express your heart and, undo all those thoughts you had about not being able to do it. Oh, so someone wants to start with Zumba for exercise. Yeah, Zumba would be fun. All right, so still about things that we need to undo. There's some generational parts here. The mum's side of the family this time, mum's dad, and the men. All right, some stubbornness hiding in there. All right. Catherine said, talk about generational. I've realised this week why I have a complaining streak. I looked at my European background and came to understand my ancestors and how this is inbred in Europeans because of political systems they've had to live with for generations. So true. And so now I understand this streak in me and can work on it rather than beat myself up about it. Oh, bravo, Catherine. Love it. So good. And that's a great example, and I think that's how we all have to look at it. If we can understand some of the things that are stuck are definitely generational, and that our family that went before us would like us to be free of their stuff, and that we're supported in being free of that stuff, I think that's a great start. And yes, work on it. We're currently doing an Energy Works online. So we've had our first class, and there's a couple of people who couldn't make it, so we did a catch-up class for those people. So if you're interested, you could jump on. It's just a Zoom on a Thursday night. So we're learning, so far we've learned about the body systems and the genes. And so learning how to decipher what your body is telling you so that we can, make changes in our life and understand and decipher the language of our body. Okay, so now more reactions to feelings. The reaction to the feeling of self-abuse, age 2. Now, when my oldest son was little, I must have been telling him off a lot. Ari, do this. Ari, do that. And poor Ari in the end would say, Ari, to himself and tell himself off. So it's like, sometimes we have, we've been, we as parents have been telling our children off. So it's like having to rethink how we talk to people. All right, let's go into chakra 6. Okay. All right, so what's coming up in our 6th chakra is overwhelm. And I think we're all a little overwhelmed at the moment because the world is so different. All right, so self-abuse, overdramatic, that's me. Oh, we all can have moments of being overdramatic. All right, the need to prevent bad things happening. I think about one of my sons had a bad day, and we talked about, what was the best day of your life and what was the worst day of your life, and it was the same bad day. So sometimes the bad experiences are the game changers. We have these experiences and we get pulled up short, and it's like we have to change how we see things and what we're thinking about certain areas of our life. So yes, it'd be nice to prevent bad things from happening, but often that's where the lessons are, and the jewels of learning in life are in the poo moments. Okay. All right. I easily see the truth. One of my kids was born holding the umbilical cord, and it kept making his heartbeat dip down because he held it so tightly. So I think that's very symbolic. Sometimes we're so frightened of what can happen in our life, or bad things happening again, that it's like we're almost squeezing the life out of ourselves because we're holding on so tight, because we're so scared of what could go wrong, or that things could re-happen again. All right. My brain organizes it and repairs itself each night while I sleep. All right. It's safe for me to see the truth no matter what it is. I cut through any illusion and find the truth. And so sometimes we have a very unbalanced look at ourselves. We can see the bad very clearly and the good not so well. And I guess, if we only saw the good in ourselves, we could be a bit of an ego. But I think there's plenty of life experiences to beat that out of us anyway. So it's like learning to see the good, accepting the things that may need a little work on, but maybe just looking at one thing at a time that we'd like to improve, instead of looking at all the bad things and none of the good ones. So pick one thing that you feel that you might like to make changes in, and just attack that one thing and do some energy clearing around it. Why am I doing that? What is behind it? Was it an event in your childhood that is contributing to how you think? Is it something you've inherited? Is it something trapped in your energy field? Leela's mentioned vetiver to organise the brain while you're sleeping. The vetiver oil comes from the root of a very tough grass in Haiti, and it looks like the dendrite tree of the brain, so it does help the brain to be calmer and more peaceful and more grounded. Right. I persevere to my satisfying result, reigniting my motivation and enthusiasm for all things. Yeah, it is a journey into the journey into yourself is an amazing journey. Lots of a bit of crying, some joy. It's like this understanding of yourself that you never could have. All right. This is also under vetiver. My joints are strengthened. I am pliant and supple once again, able to accommodate any surprises on the road ahead. It's almost like your suspension. If you're a car, your suspension needs to be upgraded so that you can deal with the bumps in life. Okay. Catherine's mentioned the ancestors are so important. Yes, they are. And, they went willingly before us and endured the tricky times so that we could have a better life. We need to be grateful for them. And even though they may have made some funny conclusions, I think they did the best they could in their time. And I think sometimes it's interesting to learn how similar we are to them, like I think about my dad's mum. She had 8 kids, 7 boys, 1 girl. I've got 6 boys, 1 girl. She played the piano in church, which I've done, and she also had sugar handling problems. So it's interesting to see how we are like our family. All right, so now we're going to go into the 8th chakra. So the 8th chakra is down below the first chakra into the ground. It's like actually a meter into the ground. All right, awareness of yourself as an integral part of the earth, not just a part of your small corner of the world. What's coming in here too is coveting the riches of others. If there's one thing I've learned about while working on people is that everyone has problems, even people with money or not money. Everybody has problems. There's no shortage of people with problems. All right, so what else is coming up here is conservation work. So what could you do in your community to conserve your, maybe the local plants or animals? Maybe there's a project that you could get in on. Maybe you could start a project. Maybe you can just start in your backyard. The oil spearmint comes up now. All right, spearmint can be a helpful remedy for those who struggle with communicating clearly for a wide range of reasons, from feeling scattered and inarticulate to stumbling over one's words. It assists individuals in becoming emotionally clear about what they want to say and then saying it. In short, Spearmint can help individuals access their inner light and convey that light to the world with clarity and confidence. All right, so I like that inner light. I think we all have that inner light, and that's what we need to share with other people because we inspire others as we share our inner light. And this is also affirmation under spearmint. So rest comes easily to me at the end of the day. I sleep deeply and wake rejuvenated. My natural metabolism is responsive and productive. Hey, so we could use spearmint for our metabolism. I'm open to life and breathe it all in, allowing my commitment to the evolutionary process to remain steady. And I guess that's what we have to commit to, isn't it? Not that we're going to make massive change all in one go, but that we make small changes steadily. Right, my soul and self are one in constant connection and communication. And I guess that's being in touch with our inner self. And if we have that connection for divine inspiration, then we can use that inspiration and what is inside us to really make beautiful music, the music of our soul. All right, so now we're going back in the spine. So T6, which is the wiring into our stomach. All right, carrying too many burdens, stresses and problems. So weight is coming up here in T6. I guess that kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Feeling weighted down or burdened by problems. And often when we are having trouble dealing with problems, we want to eat to suppress the feelings that we have. I know that's my go-to. And of course, we don't crave broccoli, do we? It's usually chocolate. All right, now as a companion oil to spearmint, clary sage comes up. And clary sage is about, opening your spiritual eyes, changing your perception. All right, clary sage teaches the spirit how to use divinely given gifts and is especially helpful in clarifying spiritual vision. It assists in developing the gift of discernment. Clary sage invites individuals to expand their vision and accept the reality of the spiritual world. So we're aware of that in this group here, that we need to do that. If you're feeling that your creativity is blocked, then you could use clary sage to help you unblock that creativity. You could also take it internally in the capsule. So, all right, so clary sage also helps physically and spiritually. So some of the physical properties are anticonvulsant, antifungal, antiseptic, antispasmodic. So, yeah, you could use that to help cure bugs. It's useful for infection. So maybe that could be a useful thing at this time while we're in a time of spiritual darkness, I guess, to be enlightened and also to help your physical body fight bugs. All right, so this is from Kim's book, The Essential Oil Affirmations. I dispel paranoia, darkness, and delusion, allowing myself to see where I am holding on to limiting belief systems. Oh, how appropriate is that to our core? Undoing the limitations we put on our body and our mind and our spirit, our ambition. What is it that you're inspired to do that you just need to go do? All right. I easily empty my mind of distractions and step into the present moment. From this state of emptiness, the forces of creativity unfold and I follow them. Now, that's wonderful. So I get very stuck in the distractions. My phone is a distraction. Facebook is a distraction. So it's like learning to shut off those things is probably important for all of us. All right. I expand my vision and accept the reality of the spiritual world. And, maybe it's time to have a communion with your ancestors that went before you. How would they encourage you? What would they have you understand about yourself, the good and the bad? What would they have you attempt for the benefit of the whole family tree? That communication with our relatives that went before us, I think, is important. That could be a very important part of your meditation time, your prayer and meditation. All righty. So we have been working on a number of different topics, to help free us. So if you have a topic that you feel is important to you, please don't hesitate to post it in the group. If there's a problem that you're stuck with, you can message me privately. We can include it as part of our clearing. And of course, anytime you want to include someone you're worried about in a clearing, we can include that in our group clearing. Or there's lots of energy workers in our group that you could ask someone to help you. You could trade something with someone, a meal, a massage, an energy exchange session. Yeah, what is it that you need? Where are you stuck? What do you want help with? I have little clarity calls if you want you can do that. You can book in a 15-minute call on a1health.com.au. All these things are there for your good. That's why I do these calls every week, because I want you to feel like you have help and support, that you're not alone. All right, I'm grateful to have had you on the call. It makes a difference to have some people there. Thank you for joining in and typing in your comments. That makes a big difference. Hope you have a beautiful day.